Hello again, welcome to my lecture shorts. I'm Sean Castleberry, and today we're going to have a short lecture on what ethical relativism is not. And this is the title that I borrowed from one of my professors at JMU named Professor Norp. Got my own spin on it, but one of the best ways to talk about ethical relativism is to talk about what it isn't, okay? So one thing, just to get started, let's talk about ethical relativism in general. Basically, it's the idea that each culture has their own set of moral codes, but it's not just that they have them and one culture's right or one culture's wrong, that individual culture, that particular culture, their codes are actually good or wrong, or what they think is good is really good for them, and what they think is wrong is really wrong for them. So in our culture, we believe that everyone should be entitled to education. It really is good for us to do that. Whereas another culture says that only males should be educated. It really is good for them to be that way. And if I were to go over there and try to force them to be to teach all people instead of just males, I would actually be wrong. So their moral code is almost like a universal moral code that applies just to each culture. Okay, so let's get that out there first, and then we'll talk about in just a minute more what ethical relativism is. But let's talk about what it gets confused with first. Okay, one of the biggest ideas it gets confused with is what we call moral skepticism. Okay, and moral skepticism, all right, is the idea that we do not know if there are moral codes or not. Okay, there could be moral codes out there. They could be relative, they could be universal, or there could be no moral codes whatsoever. The skeptic is basically saying, I do not know. Okay, that is the big point. I do not know if I'm a skeptic. Noam Chomsky claimed that there are really no moral skeptics, that when push comes to shove in real lived life, we all believe in some type of values or some type of moral codes. This is more of a theoretical position, but I promise you, there are many people theoretically who do believe this. And what I want to call this is a negative argument, though, or making a negative statement, They're not really saying anything about our world. They're just saying that you can't know about it. You can't know if there are morals. You can't know if there are no morals, okay? And a lot of people think that sometimes confuse this person with a skeptic because they don't claim there's any universal moral codes. But they're claiming we just don't know if there are any, and they say there could even be relative moral codes, but you just cannot know it. And some skeptics say if we keep pushing harder, maybe one day we'll find evidence to support one side or the other. Others are more radical and say it's impossible, and there's no amount of time and no amount of evidence will ever prove moral codes. Okay. The other one that really I think is confused the most is what we call moral nihilism. All right, we'll be quick here. Moral nihilism. And moral nihilism is basically the statement that moral codes, okay, do not exist. There are no moral codes out there. They are making a positive statement about the world. They are claiming there is no such thing as morals. Okay, so basically they're saying this is that I can step on an ant. It means the exact same thing as if I killed somebody. It doesn't matter. There is no meaning to anything. Okay, there's no right or wrong in any manner. Okay, now moral nihilists may say something like this, like if you look around, cultures do have codes, and that culture has a code, but those codes in the end all be all mean nothing. There is no God giving us morality. There is no human nature that gives us morality. It doesn't exist. Now, I still may kill someone, they still may put me in jail. Nihilism still believes in power, that there may be the powerful will push us and make us subject to it. But in the end all be all, there really are no moral codes. They don't exist. They are nothing but mere creations by us in order to control people. One of the big kind of famous person who talks about this is Friedrich Nietzsche. Put him here. Okay. And Friedrich Nietzsche is actually someone who in the late 19th century and pushed a lot of thought in the 20th century as to how if there is no God, and the belief is nihilism, that what happens if there's no God, then we believe that no, there must be no moral codes. Nietzsche's looking at is there a way in which after the death of God we might be able to find meaning in our life without having to look to some type of universal or some transcendental? If you're interested in that, check out Nietzsche. Okay. And then one of the other big ideas that gets, I'll just say this, one of the big reasons why nihilism is confused with relativism is because at first a nihilist may say, hey, look, morals seem to be dependent on culture, but those morals really don't mean anything. And that's the difference there, that there really have there is no standing for them. We just create them, but they mean nothing else. It's just like if I made something up, okay? It really has no value, all right? And finally, the one to really kind of to show us here is subjectivism, which some would say is a type of relativism, and I would agree, okay? But it's different. It's not, now, morality is not relative to culture. What it is actually morals okay, are relative to the individual. Okay, and that means this is more like the sophists, individual, there we go, during ancient Greece times. Okay, the sophists, think of Protagoras, his man is the measure of all things. What this says is, what I believe morally is true for me, and what you believe morally is true for you, even if they contradict. So if I want to go on believing that murder is okay, it truly is okay for me to go murder. If you don't believe that, then it truly be wrong for you. Now we can see all types of problems there. First of all, it seems like I can never be wrong. Like, as long as I believe it, then it's true, right? As long as I believe murder is great, then it's great. All right. Think of what we would do with someone like the Green River Killer, who was one of the most notorious killers. Apparently killed over 80 people in the 80s. Okay. According to him, he thought killing these people was a good thing. All right. And if he believes it, then it really is. We see a big problem there. Also, another thing is our culture can't critique him. What an individual believes is what an individual believes. We have to leave it there. And that seems really difficult. It seems we should be able to critique right here this subjectivist position.